हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, मैं प्रोफेसर उदय टेके। आज के इस लेक्चर में हम हमारा पेपर एडवांस्ड अकाउंटिंग, इस पेपर का जो चैप्टर नंबर 1 है, दैट इज अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स, इस अकाउंटिंग के स्टैंडर्ड्स से रिलेटेड डिस्कशन करेंगे। फर्स्ट ईयर में और सेकंड ईयर में ये अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड की कॉन्सेप्ट आप लोगों ने पढ़ी है। कुछ अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स को भी हम लोगों ने क्या किया है, डिस्कस किया है फर्स्ट ईयर में और सेकंड ईयर में। जो बाकी के अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड है, यानी कि अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड जो है इंडिया में, जो अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड है, उस अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड में से कुछ अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स फर्स्ट ईयर में और कुछ अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स सेकंड ईयर में डिस्कशन हुआ है। अब थर्ड ईयर में जो बचे हुए अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स है, उस अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स के बारे में यहाँ हमें क्या करना है, डिस्कशन करना है। सो वी ऑल आर फेमिलियर अबाउट द कंसेप्ट ऑफ अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड, यानी कि ये अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड की जो कॉन्सेप्ट है, इसके बारे में हमें क्या है, जानकारी है। फिर भी ये अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड की कंसेप्ट यहाँ पहले हम क्या करेंगे, क्लियर करेंगे, और बाद में जो अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स हमारे सिलेबस में है, उस अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड के बारे में हम क्या करेंगे, शॉर्टकट में डिस्कशन करेंगे। सो अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स आर द रिटन स्टेटमेंट्स कंसिस्टिंग ऑफ रूल्स एंड गाइडलाइंस issued by the accounting institutions for the preparation of uniform and consistent financial statements and also for other disclosures affecting the different users of accounting information। सिंपल है, ये क्या है अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड, एक रिटन स्टेटमेंट से, इसमें क्या होता है, कंसिस्टिंग ऑफ, इसमें रूल्स होते हैं, गाइडलाइंस होते हैं, और एक कौन इशू करता है, ये रिटन स्टेटमेंट इशूड बाय अकाउंटिंग इंस्टीट्यूशन। जो अकाउंटिंग इंस्टीट्यूशन है, हर एक कंट्री की एक अकाउंटिंग इंस्टीट्यूशन होते हैं। जैसे कि हमारे इंडिया में ICAI आया है, जिसमें ICAI यानी कि इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंसी ऑफ इंडिया, ये इंस्टीट्यूशन क्या करती है, हमारे इंडिया में ये रिटर्न स्टेटमेंट्स, जिसमें कि रूल्स होते हैं, गाइडलाइंस होते हैं, इशू करती है। किसके लिए ये अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड इशू किए जाते हैं? फॉर द प्रिपरेशन ऑफ यूनिफॉर्म एंड कंसिस्टेंट फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स। तो जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स है, यूनिफॉर्मिटी आनी चाहिए, और जो कंसिस्टेंसी है फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स में, वो रहने के लिए ये अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड क्या किए जाते हैं, इशू किए जाते हैं। एंड ऑल्सो फॉर अदर डिस्क्लोजर्स अफेक्टिंग द डिफरेंट यूजर्स ऑफ अकाउंटिंग इन्फॉर्मेशन। और इस अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड में और क्या होता है, तो जो डिफरेंट यूजर्स है, उन यूजर्स के लिए, जैसे कि शेयर होल्डर्स है, इन्वेस्टर्स है, कंज्यूमर्स है, ये जो इंटरेस्टेड ग्रुप्स है बिजनेस के, उनके लिए कुछ जो डिस्क्लोजर्स है, वो डिस्क्लोजर्स इस अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स में होते हैं। सो अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स ले डाउन द टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन ऑफ अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसीज एंड प्रैक्टिसेस बाय वे ऑफ कोड्स, गाइडलाइंस एंड एडजस्टमेंट्स फॉर मेकिंग द इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ एटम्स appearing in the financial statements easy and even their treatment in the books of accounts. So this is the concept of accounting standards. The objective of setting standards is to bring about uniformity in financial reporting and to ensure consistency and comparability in the data published by enterprises. For accounting standards to be useful as a tool to enhance corporate governance and responsibility, two criteria must be satisfied. That is, number one, a standard must provide a generally understood and accepted measure of the phenomena of concern. Number two, a standard should significantly reduce the amount of manipulation of the reported numbers and is likely to occur in the absence of the standard. In India, the Accounting Standard Board, that is ASB, was constituted by the Institute of Chartered Accountancy of India on 21st April 1977, which performs the function formulating accounting standards. The statements on accounting standards are issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, that is ICAI, to establish standards that have to be complied with to ensure that financial statements are prepared in accordance with a commonly accepted accounting standards in India. So, these are the accounting standards in our syllabus. The accounting standards as given by Accounting Standard Board are listed below. So, these are the accounting standards of our syllabus. So, accounting standard number 3, that is cash flow statement. Accounting standard number 7, construction contracts. Accounting standard number 8, accounting for research and development, which is withdrawn pursuant to accounting standard number 26 becoming mandatory. Then accounting standard number 12, accounting for government grants. Then accounting standard number 15, employee benefits. Then accounting standard number 17, segment reporting. Then accounting standard number 18, related party disclosures. Accounting standard number 19, leases. Accounting standard number 20, earnings per share, that is EPS. Accounting standard number 21, consolidated financial statements. Accounting standard number 22, accounting for taxes on income. Then accounting standard number 23, accounting for investments in associates in consolidated financial statements. Accounting standard number 24, discontinuing operations. And accounting standard number 25, interim financial reporting. So, these are the accounting standards. Accounting standard number 3, cash flow statements. It is introduced from 1st April 1997. Scope of accounting standard number 3, that is cash flow statements. An enterprise should prepare a cash flow statements and should present it for each period for which financial statements are presented. Definitions. The following terms are used in this standard with the meanings specified. Number 1, cash comprises cash on hand and demand deposits with banks. Number 2, cash equivalents are short-term, highly liquid investments that are readily convertible into known amounts of cash and which are subject to an insignificant risk of changes in value. Number 3, cash flows are inflows and outflows of cash and cash equivalents. Number 4, operating activities are the principal revenue producing activities of the enterprise and other activities that are not investing or financing activities. Number 5, investing activities are the acquisition and disposal of long-term assets and other investments not included in cash equivalents. Financing activities are activities that result in changes in size and composition of owner's capital, including preference share capital in the case of company, and borrowings of the enterprise. Presentation of cash flow statement. The cash flow statement should report cash flows during the period classified by operating, investing and financing activities. Operating activities. Cash flow from operating activities are primarily derived from the principal revenue producing activities of the enterprise. Examples of cash flow from operating activities are cash receipts from the sale of goods and rendering services. Cash receipts from the royalties, fees, commissions and other revenues. Cash payments to suppliers for goods and services. Cash payments to and on behalf of employees. Cash receipts and cash payments of an insurance enterprise for premiums and claims, annuities and other policy benefits. Cash payments or refunds or income taxes unless they can be specifically identified with financing and investing activities, and cash receipts and payments relating to futures contracts, forward contracts, option contracts and swap contracts when the contracts are held for dealing or trading purposes. Then investing activities. Examples of cash flow arising from investing activities are cash payments to acquire fixed assets, including intangible assets. Then cash receipts from disposal of fixed assets, including intangible assets. Then cash payments to acquire shares, warrants or debt instruments of other enterprises and interest in joint ventures. Number 4. Cash receipts from disposal of shares, warrants or debt instruments of other enterprises and interest in joint ventures. Number 5. Cash advances and loans made to third parties. Number 6. Cash receipts from the repayment of advances and loans made to third parties. Then financing activities. The separate disclosure of cash flows arising from financing activities is important because it is useful in predicting claims on future cash flow by providers of funds, both capital and borrowings, to the enterprise. Examples of cash flows arising from financing activities are cash proceeds from issuing shares or other similar instruments, cash proceeds from issuing debentures, loans, notes, bonds and other short or long-term borrowings, and cash repayments of amounts borrowed. So this is the accounting standard number 3. Then accounting standard number 7, that is construction contracts. It is introduced from 1st April 1991. The objective of this accounting standard is to prescribe the accounting treatment of revenue and costs associated with construction contracts. The standard prescribes only percentage of completion method for recognizing the revenue, which justifies the accrual system of accounting. A construction contract is a contract specifically negotiated for the construction of an asset or a combination of assets that are closely interrelated or interdependent in terms of their design, technology, and function, or their ultimate purpose or use. Construction contracts are formulated in a number of ways, which for the purpose of this standard are classified as fixed price contracts and cost plus contracts. Some construction contracts may be a mix of a fixed price contract and a cost plus contract. Combination and segmenting construction contracts. When a contract covers a number of assets, the construction of each asset should be treated as separate construction contract when separate proposals have been submitted for each assets. Each asset has been subject to separate negotiation, and the contractor and customer have been able to accept or reject the part of the contract relating to each asset, and the cost and revenues of each asset can be identified. A group of contracts, whether with a single customer or with several customers, should be treated as a single construction contract when the group of contracts is negotiated as a single package. The contracts are so closely interrelated that they are in effect part of a single project with an overall profit margin, and the contracts are performed concurrently or in a continuous sequence. A contract may provide for the construction of an additional asset at the option of customer, or may be amended to include the construction of individual asset. The construction of the additional asset should be treated as a separate construction contract when the asset differs significantly in design, technology, or function from the asset covered by the original contract, or the price of the asset is negotiated without regard to the original contract price. Contract revenue should be comprised the initial amount of revenue agreed as per contract and variations in contract work, claims, and incentive payments. Then, contract cost. Contract cost should be comprised costs that relate directly to the specific contract, costs that are attributable to contract activity in general and can be allocated to the contract, and such other costs as are specifically chargeable to the customer under the terms of the contract. Recognition of contract revenue and expenses. When the outcome of construction contract can be estimated reliably, contract revenue and contract costs associated with the construction contract should be recognized as revenue and expenses respectively by reference to the stage of completion of the contract activity at the reporting date. Any expected loss on the construction contract should be recognized immediately as an expenses. The recognition of revenue and expenses by reference to the stage of completion of contract is often referred to as percentage of completion method. Under this method, contract revenue is matched with the contract costs incurred in reaching the stage of completion, resulting in the reporting of revenue, expenses, and profit, which can be attributable to the proportion of work completed. This method provides useful information on the extent of contract activity and performance during a period. Recognition of expected losses. When it is probable that total contract cost will exceed total contract revenue, the expected loss should be recognized as expenses immediately. An enterprise should disclose the amount of contract revenue recognized as revenue in the period, the methods used to determine the contract revenue recognized in the period, and the methods used to determine the stage of completion of contracts in progress.